Hello everybody and welcome back to another video for the day. We're going back into r/Tales of Neckbeard, the good old story time format that people apparently seem to find relaxing to have on in the background. Thank you and shout out to you dudes. If you guys would like to be absolutely amazing, show your support, see more videos like this one in the near future, be sure to hit that like button. Let me know down below what you want to see in the future regarding the background footage. Leave them good old comments. And if you have not already, subscribe to the channel and turn on them notifications. We're getting pretty close to that 70,000, and if we could hit that, that would be super duper awesome. Our first story comes to us from username Mikogore, my weeaboo ex-boyfriend I met at a local convention. Hey r/Tales of Neckbeards, today I'm here to talk about one of the worst experiences of my life, and I'm gonna put a TW before I get into more detail. TW is self-harm, those thoughts, and a hurting for some parts of the story, so if you're sensitive to these topics, please don't read. There's a timestamp for the next story just in case. Okay, so 2018 was the year. I decided to start going to conventions again. I hadn't gone because of money and lack of cosplays, and a local con was happening near me, which I had wanted to go to since two of my favorite Vocaloid producers, one of which was a voice provider for a Vocaloid at that point, were going to be guests at the con. Vocaloid was what started my journey and helped me slowly get into making music more often, but that's besides the point. Day one of the con comes, and there's this guy. Let's call him Dollar Store Dante, or DD for short. Since his Devil May Cry 3 Dante cosplay wasn't the greatest, and he believed in bleaching his hair for the cosplay, which literally killed most of his hair due to it being so thin. DD approaches me and asks this: "Hey, are you mistaking me for someone else since we had cosplayed the same character who was Diva from Overwatch?" "No, sorry, I'm Miko. Just gonna use a shortened version of my name for this." And I walked off into the vendor hall. I went and bought a few things and got something to eat, as I had a small amount of time to kill before I was on an Ask a Cosplayer panel. I waited for the panel to start, mine included, along with a few others I enjoyed, attended them, and walked around for a while. Met up with a few friends, went and grabbed a nice coffee, and attended a few other after-hour NSFW panels, and eventually went home. Now, day two is where it really kicked off. I only had one panel to help with that day. It was a small FMA panel, just some bad acting done by a few weebs I used to be friends with, but I'm now not due to personal reasons. That's a story for another time, and the weeb that lived with me. And before that, me and a few friends gathered and did some anime dances in the open back part of the vendor hall. That's when DD came in. It took me a bit to recognize him due to the fact that I had my time divided in my head of what I'd be doing for the rest of the day at the con. While we were walking back, it clicked with me. He was blending in with the group pretty well. "Wait, you're DD, right?" "Yeah, that was me yesterday." He smiled. He seemed really cool at first, and he seemed to fit my vibe well. The panel goes on, and we're having a fun time, and after the whole con, we all go to Denny's. Mind you, some hippie kid in a Kigurumi in the parking lot was smoking a J, and I was like, "Hey yo, so let me get a puff a few times before I head to my friend's car." DD rode in the back seat and was controlling the aux cord. DD seemed to enjoy my music taste a lot, as he had similar tastes or liked the same artist. I started to sort of have a crush on him, and I was dumb, and I was only like 2 months into being 18. A few weeks ago, while we were texting, he invites me to a party at his place. A few of his friends were there, and it was your typical stoner, messy college guy apartment. We kept looking at each other the whole night. Little did I know what the absolute F I was getting myself into. We see each other on a more frequent basis at that point, and then we agree that I would move in. However, he wasn't open about what his diagnoses were, and he left most of them untreated, causing him to have explosive anger. When he wasn't angry, he was literally trying to be an IRL edgy anime guy. He thought he was a main character. When he would catch me cringing or not agreeing with him, he would scream at me and harm himself, to occasions really bad to where I needed to call emergency lines, and he got admitted the second time. He would somehow bring up anime into anything, like he really thought he was an edgy protag guy, but he was a shell of a person who would throw a tantrum anytime someone wouldn't agree with him. I eventually told him I was done and I was packing my things. "Miko, don't do this." He looked at me like he was gonna punch me. Instead, he grabbed my phone and threw it and smashed the screen into bits. Didi, what the F is your issue? I couldn't believe it. I shoved him away, but he came back swinging and he almost landed a punch in my stomach. I turned so the hit in my back instead. I ran out of the small apartment screaming and crying until I found someone who could let me contact my parents and police. I haven't heard from him in years, and I really hope I don't have to ever again. He was a real weeb from heck, and if I remember anything else, I'll add the edits later. TLDR, my weeaboo ex wasn't unstable and mentally and physically hurting. Stay safe, goons. Making friends at a convention is nice and all because you have a mutual interest from the get-go. Everybody's there because they have this mutual interest for that whatever the convention is based on. Significant other is another level to that I could see being just nice from the outside, but very much if you're something that you're wanting to spend your time with somebody on a much deeper level, then you need to know them on a much deeper level, and if they're not willing to explain that, hey, there are these things that are going on with me, honestly, I would see that a little bit of as a yellow flag. If they're not willing to express that, hey, there are these things, then I wouldn't feel comfortable more so down the road when it's just more of a casual setting. Hopefully you're in a much better environment and haven't run into him since. Our next story comes to us from username Pajama Paladin. Neckbeard, weird interests, my bisexuality, and my cosplay hobby. Okay, so I have been a little bit reluctant to talk about this story because it is really recent. I also feel like it kind of solidifies that I am still really bone dead stupid when it comes to finding partners with the same interests as me and understanding the difference between love and infatuation. Unfortunately, with my first serious relationship, I had to learn the hard way. TLDR at the bottom. Rewind to about April of 2020. The pandemic was really starting to settle in the US with lockdowns and people buying up toilet paper and scalping everything from hand sanitizer to game consoles. Around this time of the year, the protests regarding BLM and police brutality were very intense. In the region I live in, a lot of the protests and the vile rioters that invaded what was supposed to be peaceful were close, so a lot of stores had boarded up windows and doors for safety. The only reason I would ever leave my apartment was for groceries. I had not lived in the town for more than 6 months to take on my dream job. I was able to work from home, thank God, and I still am, but instead of being able to explore my new home after settling in, I was cooped up in my room while the world was literally burning around all of us. I was scared, anybody would be, but this was around the time an old Tinder match reached out to check in on me. We had matched when I first installed the app looking for friends back in late 2019. A friend recommended I try that to meet new people and make friends in the area. Of course, after so many people thinking looking for friends meant friends with benefits, I gave up. I did chat with this guy a bit about games and the Gorillaz, my favorite band, good choice. So I gave him my Instagram in case we wanted to play some video games together. Now, from what I saw of this guy, he didn't look like a neckbeard at all. He was actually fit, well-groomed, really warm smile, and fairly handsome. However, if there is one thing I know a scraggly mass of pubes on a greasy double chin does not always a neckbeard make. It is a staple of the persona, sure, which is why I felt a little blindsided by this guy's personality as I got to know him. Let's call him Trapbeard, because I will admit, I fell for it. At first, things really seemed sweet. Our first date was in Animal Crossing, and then I arranged to meet him in person. This shouldn't have been the first red flag to me, but upon meeting him, I realized he was not as fit as he was in the photos. I don't have a problem with people's weight at all. As long as you take good care of yourself, all body types are lovely. What did concern me was dishonesty right off of the bat, but I didn't address it. I learned he was 30. I was 24 at the time. I've always been one to date to seek something long-term. I'm not weird for casual stuff. Sometimes I wish I was, but that's not me. I had this weird idea that if I wanted to meet someone who wanted something long-term, nobody in my age range would be looking for that, and I would have to date older men. It's not a huge gap, sure, but what I believed was freaking stupid. If you are reading this and thinking the same thing, do not fall for this trap mentally. There are people of your age who want the same things as you do. You just gotta be patient. Anyways, around July, Trapbeard invited me to hang out at his place with some friends who were playing D&D on the 4th of July. I felt safe knowing there were going to be a group of people, and it actually was a great time. His friends were pretty cool, and I actually got invited to make a character to join their campaign. So for a while it became a thing. Every other weekend I would hang out at his place, eat pizza, play some games. Again, nothing right off of the bat gave me a reason to be alarmed. He didn't have a headboard or really a bed set in his bedroom, but I overlooked that. Kinda saw it as normal things for single guys, but not a good thing, but a normal thing. Then things got a little beardy as we got more comfortable with each other, so he did have an awareness that I was bisexual, and he admitted that he was polyamorous, which I had no issue with these relationship types. They're not for me, but he assured me he would never bring someone else into the relationship without my permission. I do remember a conversation we had a couple of times that should have been another red flag, but I was unaware. I mistook it for support. DB Trapbeard. Hey, I understand that you're in a relationship and stuff, but if you ever wanted to explore your sexuality, I would fully support you. What do you mean? I mean, if you wanted to see what a relationship with a girl would be like. Why would I do that? I'm in a relationship with you. I'm not going to cheat. I know, but I wouldn't see it as cheating. It's okay. Really, I would understand. Dude, I'm in a relationship with you. I am not going to just do that. Just because I'm interested in men and women doesn't mean I'm going to just experiment when I'm committed to someone I care about. That's not okay. I wouldn't be comfortable if you did something like that to me. I'm not gonna do that to you. I should have seen it for what it was. I don't want to make assumptions, but I don't think he was actually polyamorous. Rather, he had a thing for three-ways. I'm sure if I went and experimented with my sexuality with another man, or if I invited another man into a polyamorous relationship, he wouldn't want that. He wanted a girl-on-girl action, which, looking back on it, makes me nauseous. On top of that, I had recently picked up the hobby of cosplaying and posting videos on TikTok. It was an activity I wanted to challenge myself to for ages, but had always been scared of because of bullies. So, letting my partner know about it was a big and scary step for me. I did bite the bullet and let him know, and to my joyful surprise, he didn't make fun of me for it. I was so happy knowing my partner appreciated it. Only it wasn't really appreciation. I guess Trapbeard saw it as a hobby for cosplay, as a hint that he could bring costumes into the bedroom. I didn't realize it at the start, but he had that weird interest in it. The big clues that led me to that theory was, of course, he would mention, "You would look so cute in a sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that word, uniform. And insert character here is so hot, you should try cosplaying them." Then there was the off-brand. We would chat about characters from various shows and games, and how cool or neat they were. They were women, of course. Somehow he would always have some form of lewd art of a character and would send it to me. It started off with Lady Dimitrescu and would go as far as Peridot from Steven Universe. Not straight off-brand per se, but definitely teetering and enough to make me uncomfortable. Then he freaking sent me inflation fan art, and some of you may know I had an encounter with that type of lewd artist that commissioned me for art that was upsetting, and to say the least. However, when I shared that story with him, I guess he saw it as ammunition, because he would literally keep finding it and showing it to me to get a reaction out of me. We both enjoyed anime and manga and such, but there were some games of his that raised concerns. He knew of one where you have battleships that are actually lolly girls, and some of his favorite characters from Genshin Impact either look like mothers or lollies. I had expressed before a couple of times lolly characters and their designs were pretty gross, and one day he decided to have his debate. TB, do you think character that is 500 plus year old that looks like a child is gross? Yeah, that age is not an excuse to be lewd with it. It looks like an 11-year-old. Okay, so what if there was a character that looked 99 years old or more, but they were actually 3? People still shouldn't be attracted to it. It's still a child. Oh, so that defines it to be a child, their looks, or their actual age? Both. One is clearly designed to look like a child, and one is at the age of a child. If you are attracted to something that is the age, or because they look that age, that is the problem. Entire races are looted simply because they look submissive and childlike. Just because it is a fictional character doesn't make it okay. The conversation alone should have had me running, but nope, I stayed. I thought he was showing me more decency than other men I had spent my time with in the past, and that he was as good as I was gonna get. My bar was on the floor, and Trapbeard was drilling for oil. And this is only the start. This is getting pretty long, so I'll carry on the rest in a second installation. And anything really pick up there, I appreciate you reading. TLDR, I have bad luck with men once again. Trapbeard seems nice and harmless at first, but I learn he lewds each and every trait about me. If anybody only likes you for the looting use, that's not a good reason to stay with him, and you shouldn't be staying with him. Kind of interested to see where part 2 goes, so I'll be on the lookout for it in the future. Our last story comes to us from username Just an Alcoholic. Neckbeards everywhere. So this is my first post, and I'm not entirely sure if this post fits here, as it's not completely about one specific person, but I think it's still relevant. I'm also on mobile, so I'm sorry about probable grammar mistakes. I went to Bronycon one year. I enjoy a lot of the same things many neckbeards do, but I like to think I'm not that bad, and it was alright for the most part. On one of the days, they had 21 plus seminars after the main part of the con was over for the day, and being the functioning alcoholic that I am, I planned on going to all 3 events scheduled. Now, it was a little while ago, so I don't remember all of the details, but I think one was about 45 minutes long. The first one was a little weird, but still fun. It was mostly skits where the actors were cosplays. The second one was a drunk reading of cringy fan fiction. It was similarly enjoyable to reading stories here. Now, if you read this far, we're finally getting to the bad part. After this first 2 events being good, I was blissfully unaware about what was going to happen next, and by this point I drank more than my fair share of Pinkie Pie specials. Cue the last event, and the description on the convention guide says it's something to do with fanfiction. Alright, should be good, just like the last one. It starts out fine. Not as funny as the first 2, but not overly cringy yet. The people leading the panel were relatively diverse, not all looking like the typical neckbeard. They start talking and asking questions for the crowd, which was about 70 or so people. One that sticks out in my mind is, what's another word for a V? Now, I'm mentally bracing myself for the answers that will be coming. Some of them are what you would expect. Then there's one guy a couple of rows in front of me raises his hand. One of the people on the panel call on him, and he awkwardly says, Pinkie Pie. I cringe internally a little bit, but apparently he said it too quietly because they couldn't hear him at the front of the room. So they ask him to repeat it 3 times. You can feel the awkwardness hanging in the air at this point, so I get up and go to the back of the hall to buy more Pinkie Pie specials from the poor, unfortunate souls who worked at the hotel and are forced to listen to everything. Now I'm thinking things can't really get any worse, and if I drink enough, the weirdness will fade away. I've never been more wrong. For the record, I'm pretty laid back and have relatively thick skin. It takes a lot to weird me out. I don't even care about the cringe bronies who clop. Now it's about halfway into the event, and the most normal looking of the panelists starts talking. She looks to be mid to upper 20s and is decently attractive. A little chubby, but not what I would consider fat. She is also dressed fairly conservatively in formal clothes. Wouldn't look out of place in a church. She starts going into explicit detail about how to write bad, horrible fanfiction, while explaining that it's unfairly ridiculed because it's just a form of art. I'm absolutely floored at this point. I can't handle weird, but this was something I've never seen outside of the darkest corners of the internet. And it wasn't coming from some stereotypical greasy neckbeard. The worst part was I looked around. I was the only one looking mortified at what I was hearing. Being 8 or 9 Pinkie Pie specials into a less than 2-hour period, I was also probably one of the least sober people there. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough. I get up now because I can't sit through any more of this and avoid making eye contact with the hotel staff because I'm pretty sure they think I'm some kind of monster. I proceed to spend the rest of the night at a nearby bar trying to cleanse my mind. Now, I don't think all bronies are like that, and as fun as neckbeard stories are to read, I think it's dangerous to assume anyone who looks a certain way is a deviant, because it takes the focus off of the people that are predators but are able to hide it. That being said, I hope some of you got a little enjoyment out of my suffering. Now, yeah, definitely making assumptions based on somebody's appearance is a bad thing, very much so, though the one time I did go by Bronycon was actually just because I was in the area, the local Build-A-Bear shop, and there just happened to be some My Little Pony ones. A bunch of dudes with cargo shorts, backpacks, and graphic t-shirts walked in. We all know that they were going to the convention. That's the thing, though. Just because someone looks a certain way does not mean that they are not this certain person. It's more so that why I don't associate the whole neckbeard persona, because there can be some people that actually take care of themselves a lot. Like, they go to the gym, they're physically fit, they eat healthy, they shower, all of the things that you would think would be a good person. But if somebody has a messed up mind, that is something that very much is not able to hide for so long. And there had to have been some people that reported that panel to the staff of the convention, and very much so they're not going to get their own panel again next year, I very much hope. But with that, that is going to have to be it with the video. If you guys would love to be absolutely amazing, show your support, and see more videos like this one in the near future, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment down below to start up them wholesome internet discussions, and if you have not already, subscribe to the channel and turn on them notifications. Let me know what video game you'd like to see in the near future for background stuff, so you might make it into a future video. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.